Welcome. Hi, this is Noemi Figueroa Sule, and I'm coming from Florida. Thank you for joining me for this special event. For all our veterans out there, happy Veterans Day. I wanted to do something different to honor our Borinqueneer veterans for Veterans Day, and I'm so happy that so many of you agreed to join me. We are celebrating two milestones this year. The regiment's 125th anniversary since its creation in 1899. And this year marks my work for the past 25 years, believe it or not, on behalf of this regiment. Tonight, I will not be providing a history lesson on the 65th, which, as many of you know, was the only Hispanic segregated unit in Army history, nicknamed the Borinqueneers. But I hope this presentation sparks an interest in you to learn more about this regiment. And now there's a lot more information out there than when I began, whether it be my documentary film or many books that are out there that profile the regiment. But we are here today for a different reason. Now, as you saw in the video that I presented earlier, I have had the pleasure of meeting so many of these veterans since I began working on this subject matter in 1999. And tonight, you will hear about some of them, as well as hear from some special guests. Now, throughout this event, I will be asking you to write comments and to send any tributes or greetings you want to share about any living or deceased Borinqueneers in your life. And you can be a family member or friend. And throughout the program, I will be taking breaks to share and display some of these comments with you. Now, as many of you know, I am the producer, director of the documentary film, The Borinqueneers. You know, documentary filmmakers are not supposed to become friends with their interview subjects because you have to preserve some objectivity. Well, that's hard to do when you spend 9 years of your life trying to get the story told. And you feel a strong sense of responsibility in trying to get this story told honestly and do right by them. I formed a bond with many of these men that was life-changing and long-lasting. But since our time tonight is limited to about an hour or so, I was forced to select just a few to profile tonight, which was very difficult for me. These are veterans who I became very close to or had more contact with than others and who are no longer with us. But I felt compelled to share them with you and to tell you about the role each played in helping me tell their stories. So let's get right to it. And we're going to begin with Lieutenant Colonel Carlos Betances Ramirez. Now, this red-headed, look at him, red-headed man with freckles was born in Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico in 1910 and was a World War II veteran. During the Korean War, he was assigned to the 65th in 1952 and became the only Puerto Rican battalion commander in that war, commanding the 2nd Battalion, which was a very important position. In 2000, I had the honor of interviewing him for my film and even stayed at his home. He was an important eyewitness to the Kelly Hill and Jackson Heights incident, and I'm thankful for the information he willingly shared to help us tell the untold story of the 65th. I can't recall ever meeting a more loyal and dedicated man to his military career and sensing from him the feeling of immense pride he felt as both a Puerto Rican and an American. I still miss the jokes he would send via email to a select group of people, and I was one of those lucky people. He died a year later in 2001, but not without having made a lifelong impression in my life, and today I honor him by speaking his name. Colonel Willis Bud Cronkite was another important eyewitness who appeared in my film. A West Point graduate, he served as the F Company commander and was awarded a Silver Star after the Jackson Heights Battle of 1952. He graciously sat through a 2-hour-long interview when I visited him in Little Rock, Arkansas in 2000. And my initial impression was that he was rather detached until he began to speak about his men and about Betances. And then his voice would tremble and his eyes would tear. Pedro Santana Camacho, a soldier who served under him, told me, quote, "He was a career military man. He loved the troops very much, but he gave the impression of not liking them. He didn't smile much, but when we were in war, he took great care of the company." Cronkite passed away in 2002 at the age of 80, and today I speak his name and thank him for his compassion and his kindness. I was introduced to Betances and Cronkite through the work of 3 gentlemen who were doing research on the 65th back then. You're going to hear from one of them tonight, retired Lieutenant Colonel Bart Soto. Interestingly enough, Betances passed away on October 28th, which has a special significance in the history of the 65th. And I am going to show you a pre-recorded video which will explain further. Hi, my special guest today is Lieutenant Colonel Bart Soto. And here you go. Hi, Bart.
Hello.
Can you tell us what your connection is to the 65th?
My connection is my late father, Sergeant Gabriel Soto Rivera. Dad retired as a staff sergeant, but in that time he was assigned to the 65th during the Korean War in 1952. He was just a corporal. And I always wanted to learn more about the regiment because I was surprised that he was in the Korean War and then that he was with the 65th. So I started doing some research. I teamed up with some folks along the way, Mr. Ernest Acosta, who was one of the pioneers in researching the 65th, and Mr. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Rodriguez, a classmate of mine. And we teamed together, did our own research, read everything we could on it, and contacted the Secretary of the Army and asked the Army that they research the regiment and write a book about it. Because of Ernest, who had contacts with living veterans, which was a surprise to me. I read the histories, but I wasn't aware that these gentlemen, several of them were still alive, key players that were mentioned prominently in the Army history. One of them was Colonel Carlos Betances Ramirez, and Colonel Betances called me at my home because Ernest referred him to me and surprised me. And when I spoke to him, he told me he still had contact with 2 of the company commanders that served under him. That was Colonel Bud Cronkite and also Colonel George Jackson. And both these gentlemen I was able to interview independently and obtain their stories and their perspective of their service with the 65th. They were both Continental American officers commanding Puerto Rican troops. Also, during my research, I found that there was an officer attached to the 65th during one of their major battles, and that was Colonel Gerald Wilcom, who was a forward observer. He was attached to the 65th to be able to call in artillery strikes for them. And these were gentlemen I interviewed, all of them, and obtained their stories and their histories.
Well, one thing connected them all, though. What was the one thing that connected them, including the date of today? Was today's date?
Yes, ma'am. They were all connected in that they were involved on 28 October 1952 in one of the battles of Jackson Heights. It was a very brutal battle, and Cronkite was the company commander, and with his forward observer, Gerald Wilcom, they survived by the grace of God and made it back to the front lines and survived that day, which was their day of days. They didn't expect to live through the day. And what happened was every year after that, on the 28th of October, they would call each other and propose a toast to the regiment. And I found out about what a wonderful tradition. And through time, unfortunately, Colonel Cronkite passed away, but Colonel Gerald Wilcom surprised me and called me that day and wanted a toast to the regiment. And he brought me into this tradition of toasting to the regiment on the 28th of October.
Then what happened?
Well, unfortunately, Colonel Wilcom also passed away, and I was thinking about continuing the tradition. Contacted one of the sons of one of the other officers who had fought in the battle on the 20th of October. Unfortunately, his father passed away. That was John Porterfield. His son was Scott Porterfield. I was able to contact, and we would toast to the regiment. And finally, we brought you in, 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒, because you're very important to the history of the 65th. Thanks to you, a good portion of the country now knows about the regiment due to your documentary and your book.
I was able to participate a few years, on and off. So unfortunately, this year, Scott could not be with us to continue the tradition, but we send him our regards because he's dealing with medical issues. But we did want to mention his father, who was killed in action. There were a few people, soldiers and officers that died that day. But one of the people that I want to introduce to this tradition is another very important family member, which is the family of Lieutenant William White, who was also killed on October 28th at Jackson Heights. So this is a photo of him. He was only 23 years old, sadly. So at this point, I'm going to add the family of Lieutenant White. And you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm his oldest daughter, Judy, and this is my oldest son, Ben. And he's the one that started doing a lot of research about my dad. So my dad was a second lieutenant in the Illinois National Guard. And he actually was assigned to the 65th. And I was only 2 years old. I turned 2 a week before he died. And my brother was 5 months old. So we don't have a lot of memories other than pictures and some things my mom shared. She just did not really talk about it that much. So most of the information we've gotten has been through Ben and his research.
Yeah, I didn't know much about the 65th. I kind of started doing a little bit of my research because my grandmother started sharing some personal items of his with me. And so that kind of led me to start looking into what the 65th was about, what he did, and it led me to what happened on that day, on October 28th, and really find out, everything that he went through. I got some letters from her when she passed away. My mom got most of them, but it really showed us the kind of person he was. Very much a loving husband to my grandmother, talked about his family all the time, how much he loved them and was excited to see them when everything was over. So yeah, it gave us a little bit more info on who he was.
And I'm very proud to say that I was able to award the family the Congressional Gold Medal on behalf of William White, which he's a Borinqueneer.
Yes.
I just felt it was important that as we're losing so many of our veterans, there are still ways to expand this tradition and continue it. So I hope that we can continue to do this on a yearly basis. I'm very bad. Sometimes I forget, but Bart reminds me. And you know, since we're doing this special event for Veterans Day, I wanted to incorporate this tradition. So should we toast? Are we ready to toast? Bart?
Here I am. I would like to propose a toast to the 65th Infantry Regiment, Borinqueneers. Viva Borinqueneers!
Vivan los Borinqueneers.
Long live the Borinqueneers.
Do you guys want to say anything in particular, your own toast? We're going to get drunk with all these toasts.
I just wanted to thank both of you for including us and helping us to be a part of this. And we'll certainly share this with the rest of our family. Ben is one of 8 kids and we have 17 grandkids. So I'm excited to share this with them.
Well, that's beautiful. And let's toast to that.
To grandchildren and children.
To family, to the legacy of family. And for me, I just want to say that this is so special that Bart even thought of including me, because I feel it's important for us to remember not only those who survived combat during very difficult conditions and, you know, felt a need to toast on a once-a-year basis for having survived harrowing experience that Jackson Heights was, but as a reminder for all of us that there were some that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And Porterfield was one of them, Captain Porterfield and Lieutenant White. And so I pay tribute to those who didn't make it. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, so let us move on. Let me remove this. So Bart Soto joined us from Georgia, and Judith and Ben Galavitz joined us from Texas. Scott Porterfield, who couldn't join us, lives in Ohio, and we send him our regards and wish him a speedy recovery. For those of you who are not familiar with the Kelly Hill and Jackson Heights battles, we encourage you to download Colonel Gilberto Villahermosa's book, Honor and Fidelity, published by the Center of Military History, and where he covers those incidents. And of course, you can rent or buy my film, The Borinqueneers, which also deals with it, or Google for other sources of info on the 65th. Now it's time to read for some comments. Let me see if there's anything, any tributes for any living or deceased Borinqueneers. I see comments, but they're just saying hello, hello. I'm gonna show this one. I don't know who the Facebook user is, but a salute to all Borinqueneers, their children and families. God bless you all. Great message. This one also is Sarah Thompson is watching one of John A. Palazzi's, Dr. John A. Palazzi's children. Let's see what else. I'll show this one because this talks about me. Toast to Noemi Figueroa Zulay for not giving up and creating this historical work. Thank you so much. So we're going to continue with our next Borinqueneer. This is Lieutenant Colonel Tomás Guffain. I also interviewed him for my film and was immediately impressed with his soft-spoken demeanor. He was a tall, handsome, elegant-looking man, self-assured and proud of his service with the 65th during, he served with the 65th during World War II, where he received the Bronze Star for Valor, and in Korea, where he earned a Silver Star. And it was during this time that he was there as the F Company commander, that the 65th saw the most difficult assignments and where Fox Company in particular was used extensively. He told me, quote, they sent the 2nd Battalion, which was where I was, which was the best, first because I was there, and second because I had the best battalion commander, Colonel Herman Dammer. So I was so happy that he was able to see the completed film before he passed away in 2008. I attended his funeral at Arlington Cemetery, where he is buried with his loving wife. Lieutenant Colonel Tomás Guffain, thank you for your friendship. I speak your name today, and may you rest in peace. Here to speak more about this great man, I hope he was able to get in because I do not see him, is Carlos Guffain. Where's his son? Let's read some comments. Let's see if there's some interesting comments to give him a little more time. Okay, I love this one. From Sabana Grande, great uncle Corporal Gregorio Montalvo, deceased. Thank you. And there's another one here. Hello from Texas, son of Pedro Santana. Thank you, Noemi, for all you have done for the Borinqueneers. Yes, my dad was a member of the 65th Combat Infantry. It would be nice if you had mentioned your dad's name so we would know who he was. And thank you for this tribute to the Borinqueneers. All right, so I don't know what's going on with Carlos. Carlos is missing.
I am so sorry that it's taken so long to get in. I'm not very proficient with technology these days. But anyway, thank you so much. I've been watching the whole show. Thank you so much for all of everybody that has been participating in this. Very quickly, I wanted to share with you my father's military career. He entered the Army at the age of 16 and served for 31 years, was in World War II and Korea, retiring in 1964, entered as a buck private. First 9 years, he was an enlisted man, and then became an officer before going to Germany to the war, and retired in 64 as a lieutenant colonel. Proud Borinqueneer, lifelong. Here is a picture of him, his medals. He's with the 7th Army and 3rd Infantry Division in Korea. All of his medals. This is his campaign box. He was a platoon leader in World War II and a company commander in Korea. And this is where all of the important papers were during the war years. And one of the artifacts that I'd like to share that is in Noemi's book is my father's canteen. And as you can see, that is a Chinese bullet that went through here. He had it on his hip, and he credited this canteen for saving his life. He was in many, many battles, and as other Borinqueneers were, particularly in Korea during the time there. So we're very proud as a family, my brother and my sister, of the 31 years that he served in the military, and then continued another 12 years in the Foreign Service. And let me bring this back. And he spent all of his years up until he passed away in 2008, talking about the Borinqueneers. Very proud, trying to go to as many of the events as possible that he could do. So Noemi, we're very proud of him. We're very proud of you and all that you're doing on behalf of the Borinqueneers.
Well, thank you so much, Carlos. And I'm so happy that you were able to make it.
Believe me too.
All
I've been
right.
very
Good night.
frustrating.
Good night. Good
Good
night.
night. Good night.
Ángel Escribano Aponte. You know, one of the things that I learned while working on this project is that some people are meant to be soldiers. I mean, it's not a career choice for everyone, or for some, it is. And if there have to be wars in this world, you want someone in war who is fearless and brave. And that's how I saw Lieutenant Colonel Ángel Escribano Aponte, another member of the famed Fox Company, who received a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, and a Purple Heart, and retired with 22 years of military service. I also interviewed him for my film, where he remembered his time with the 65th and said, quote, "It was beautiful, fight after fight, and I loved it." He was a happy man with many anecdotes to tell, full of life, and a bit of a rascal. I can't think of him today without smiling. In contrast, I want to introduce you to Sergeant First Class 𝑠_Germán Bravo, a 20-year veteran of World War II in Korea, where he served in the 65th Anti-Tank Platoon. Bravo was more reserved and serious than Escribano, but a true patriot and active in a number of veterans groups in Puerto Rico. I speak of Escribano and Bravo together because in 2003, I traveled with these two men to South Korea at the invitation of the 6th Cavalry Brigade to show excerpts of my unfinished film and to speak to the troops at 4 U.S. military bases. For 10 days, we bonded and had a ball. I will always be grateful to Bravo for his loyalty during the difficult 9 years I spent trying to make my film. But both Escribano and Bravo participated in screenings where they shared their wartime experiences. I want to salute and thank both veterans for supporting my efforts for many years and for their friendship. The memories of our good times remain with me today. Ángel Escribano Aponte died in 2008 and Germán Bravo in 2015. Margie Bravo, here we go, Margie.
Hola, Noemí. Bueno, hi.
Hold on, Germán's daughter is joining us from Puerto Rico, and she retired in 2002 as the director of the computer programming department and at the local Puerto Rico telephone company. Hi, Margie.
Hi, Noemí. Hi. Now that you spoke about my father and the trip you made in 2003 to South Korea, it was an actual closure for my father, because when he left Korea, he said they left Korea in shambles and he had never seen so much poverty. And when he went with you to Korea, he said that he saw the closure in him because the war was not in vain. He saw Korea so advanced technologically, the roads, the bridges. And he says that they weren't able to conquer the whole peninsula of Korea. Are you there, Naomi?
Now I can hear you. We lost you for a while. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to speak really quickly of what my father was after the Korean War. He was assigned after the Korean War and after marrying my mother in Vieques, Puerto Rico. He was assigned to the Monterrey School of Languages in California. And he learned Spanish. He was Japanese. He was a translator of the Japanese language. He did so well. He was assigned to Japan, and he was a translator in Japan.
Wow.
And he also, well, in Japan, since he spoke so well the Japanese language, he was part of a group of wrestlers, and he used to love wrestling. So that was part of his sport. And then he was assigned years later. He had a facility for languages. So he studied Portuguese and he was sent to Brazil. He was part of the 8th Special Forces group that was headquarters in Fort Gulick in Panama. They were the Green Berets, and they were a counterinsurgency training for Latin American troops. He went to Chile, Colombia, Bolivia, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela. While in Chile, he met Pinochet before he was president of Chile. After retiring from the Army, he dedicated his time for the awareness of the better necessary help to veterans to have a better quality of life. And he went to Washington, D.C. with certain people from Puerto Rico to lobby for funds for a nursing care facility of Puerto Rico. And he was very proud of that. And La Casa del Veterano was finally inaugurated in 2000 and in 1998. It's in Juana Diaz, Puerto Rico. He was part of the Shriners American Legion. He was commander of the Disabled American Veterans, U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And he was always taking care of veterans for claims, benefits, awards, ceremonies. He was always part of that group. And he was instrumental also when Roosevelt Roads, when the Navy left Roosevelt Roads, and Roosevelt Roads was left behind. There was a marina there, and some veterans came up to him and said, "Could you help us with the local government to see if we can have part of the marina to have our recreational boats?" So he was there to help. And to this day, that marina belongs to a group of veterans where you can have your recreational boats there. So in a nutshell, that's what my dad did, was help other people, help orphans, help veterans. And we were all very proud of his work. Here's him as a Green Beret. They would go to places to help other people. This was a water well. And here is in Chile as a Green Beret, helping out down. As a Shriners, there. And here's the Casa del Veterano. And in a nutshell, that's what my dad did. He was always there helping. He was very proud of you, Noemi, for all the work you've done. And my brother Jose, my sister Catherine, and my brother Junior are very proud of what you've done to help all the veterans and to help the history of the Borinqueneers. And we thank you all.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on. So next is Pedro Santana Camacho. All right. He will always be remembered for being the first person who speaks in my documentary film. I'm going to show a short intro so you can see.
Yo diría que el 65 es parte de la historia de Puerto Rico y es algo natural de allí, como lo es el yunque, como lo es el morro, como las montañas de Puerto Rico. El 65 es como algo que es dueño de la patria. El honor más grande que Dios me ha dado a mí es el haber sido miembro del 65 Mantería.
Pedro expressed the sentiment that many, many veterans repeated to me over the years, their pride in being part of the 65th. Pedro was a medic in the famous company F, where he was awarded a Silver Star. And here is Pedro with his cousin, Jose Leon Camacho, in Korea, who also served with the 65th in the Heavy Motor Company. And Pedro also participated in fundraisers, screenings, and interviews. And whenever I called him, he would say presente, present. Pedro Santana Camacho was a sweet and loyal man, and I will miss him. He passed away this year on February 20th, joining his cousin Jose and the other Borinqueneers who have left us. May he rest in peace. His daughter, Livia, is also joining us from Puerto Rico, and she will be speaking in Spanish. Buenas noches, Livia, y bienvenida.
Buenas noches. Antes que nada, Noemí, te queremos agradecer este homenaje que has dedicado a todos los Borinqueneers. Mi padre, Pedro Santana Camacho, perteneció, como ya has dicho, con mucho orgullo al 65 de Infantería, donde sirvió como medic asignado a la compañía F. Participó en las batallas de la colina Kelly y Jackson Heights. Salvó la vida de 2 compañeros, por lo que recibió la medalla de plata, de lo que siempre vivió muy orgulloso. Algo que marcó su vida fue cuando su amigo y compueblano murió en sus brazos. Y como indica él en sus escritos, fue su primera batalla. Se refería a esta etapa de su vida como una en la que lo convirtió en un verdadero hombre y afianzó su fe, según lo explica en sus escritos, porque a él le encantaba escribir. Comentaba que fueron días muy difíciles y solo el que vivió esa época lo entenderá. Pero nadie lo preparó para la batalla más difícil que debía enfrentar, que fue la enfermedad de mi madre, que fue diagnosticada con el Alzheimer. Él decidió pues acompañarla en su enfermedad, al estar pendiente de ella en todo momento, en todo el día, durante el todo día, conversándole, cantándole y leyéndole, con la esperanza de que sus recuerdos fueran recuperados. Por eso él decía que pues se le partía el alma en verla con su enfermedad y su mayor preocupación era faltar antes que ella, lo cual lamentablemente ocurrió, como acabas de decir, pues en este mismo año, el 19 de febrero, 7 meses luego, falleció ella y curiosamente, pues un día 19 también. Como te mencioné, a él le gustaba mucho escribir, escribía sobre su infancia, la familia, su querido pueblo natal, Yabucoa, las memorias de la guerra de Corea, pero sobre todo el gran amor que le tenía a mi madre. En estos momentos a mí me gustaría pues compartir con ustedes un segmento de los escritos de La Guerra Olvidada. Es como un poema que él escribió y 2 estrofas les voy a mencionar que pues son muy emotivas. Yo soy parte de tu historia, tú eres parte de la mía, y aunque no quisiera hacerlo, yo recuerdo noche y día aquella guerra olvidada. También mi patria querida forma parte de tu historia. Puso a tu disposición un glorioso regimiento que allí se cubriría de gloria y por eso nos hace recordar aquella guerra olvidada. O sea que en todos sus momentos, pues él recordaba pues las situaciones que él pasó en la guerra. Por eso lo recordaré pues siempre como alguien que pues quiso superarse y tener el deseo de seguir nutriendo su mente y aumentando sus aspectos educativos hasta los últimos días de su vida.
Gracias,
Sí.
gracias, qué bonito. Él era un poeta, ¿verdad?
Sí, tenemos muchos escritos de él.
Yeah, he was a poet. He loved to write poetry. Muchas gracias, Lidia.
Gracias a ti por este momento.
Gracias, bye. Eugenio Quevedo, another Company F soldier. Oh my God. What can I say about my dearest Quevedo without breaking into tears? I first met Quevedo in 1999 at our first fundraiser in New York City. And since then, he continued to participate at future fundraiser screenings and multiple media interviews in the tri-state area. There was actually a group of Borinqueneers. Some of them would come and go, but some were constant, such as in this photo with 2 important members, Jaime Lopez and Tony de la Rosa Melendez. And here they are as young soldiers. Tony was a sweetheart, the uniter, who called everyone and kept the group united. Tony died first in 2004. And on many of our road trips, Jaime would be the chatterbox that could easily be smoothed to silence if you played classical music on the car radio. Go figure. Jaime died in 2010. But Quevedo was the one with me the longest, 22 years participating in more than 40 events because I lost count, so I really don't know how many. In fact, he became kind of the spokesman for the 65th. Anytime a reporter asked for a veteran to interview, I would refer them to him. He didn't begin as a great public speaker, but I saw him grow into a phenomenal speaker, a real pro. He was intelligent, humble, and eloquent, and became a father figure to me. I got to know his family, including his lovely wife, Virginia, and we enjoyed many barbecues in my New York home before I moved to Florida. Sadly, in 2021, Quevedo got COVID and called me from his hospital bed to say goodbye. I had the gift of speaking to him for 38 minutes, and he died soon after at the age of 95. I still miss him today. And I want to introduce you now to Quevedo's son, George, who's joining us from New York. Let me look for him here. Where are you, George? There you go. Hi, George. And
I know who I am.
George is a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard and a retired lieutenant from the New York City Fire Department. So what can you tell me? What do you want to share with us today?
Well, know me. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this Zoom chat and to honor my dad. I never knew anything about the 65th Infantry Borinqueneer until my dad, and you met my dad and he started talking about it and you introduced me to what they went through that I never knew what they went through. And I did some of my research and I read some of the books that you published, I guess. And I got to know what he went through and respect what they and honor them. All the Borinqueneers, the 65th Borinqueneers. My dad was a very intelligent man. I was impressed by his smartness. A proud man, a strong man. Me and my sisters, we did well in life because we had good upbringing because of my dad and my mother. We all did well in life because we had good parents. I remember my dad. He was intelligent. He was an artist. A lot of people didn't know he was an artist. He drew for a living for a while. He would do commercial prints in the newspaper by hand. Even his signature, when he wrote something, he would write like he was drawing. He was a perfectionist. I was very proud of my dad and his accomplishment in life. He never spoke too much about the 65th Infantry Borinqueneer when we were younger. I remember him, all the holidays that we had at my mother's and father's house for Thanksgiving, for New Year's, for Christmas. There was a big gathering of family. He kept the family together. He held the family together. He would cook pernil. He would cook turkey, pasteles, and I enjoy that. And I truly miss all that, the family getting together and, but it's always in my memory and my heart of what my dad did for us. And again, I'm very proud. We all did well in life. I remember going to Central Park with with me, my sisters, and my mom, and we used to go to the Central Park and we used to do rowboating. He taught me how to rowboat when I was younger, and because of him, I am who I am today. I was very proud of him. Very proud of him, my mother, and good upbringing, and we all did well in life. He was a very, very humble, proud, intelligent man, and I was impressed by him. I was very impressed by him. There's nothing else I could say. It's just,
I think you've said enough.
I was happy to have him as a father.
He had a special place in my heart. You know that.
I know, and like I said, thank you for, enlightening enlightening me to all this, that I never had any idea what he went through, because he never spoke about it when we were young. He never ever said anything about his career experience. And I thank you for letting people know what they went through, the 65th Infantry Borinqueneers, what they accomplished, what they did, and the recognition that they truly deserve to have,
Well,
to
thank
be
you.
honored and respected.
Thank you, George, for participating in this.
Yeah, and I thank you for inviting me, and thank you, and God bless all the Borinqueneers.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you.
So let's read a couple of comments before we go to the second half of this program, which are going to be our raffle winners. This one is my dad's name, Martín Lavoy Santiago. He's being profiled today, so I don't know if it's the same son or a different son. Thank you for all your work. Dr. John Anthony Palese was the best grandpa, watching live with lots of his kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. Toast to the 65th. Salud. In Spanish, gracias por este homenaje a todos los Borinqueneers. Thank you for this tribute to the Borinqueneers. My father, Florencio Edward Lorenzo, was a proud Borinqueneer. God bless you. He is being profiled today. My dad, Martin, and his brother served for the 65th. Matias Lavoy Santiago, dad's older brother, also a World War II vet, and his younger brother, Anastasio Lavoy Santiago. He spoke of segregation in barracks and amongst the ranks, many terrible times, but the members was like no other. He also spoke of the 65th with pride. Many of the veterans that you heard about today earlier either appeared in my film or shared their correspondence, their anecdotes, or took the time to support me at various events, talking about their experiences. We shared laughter and tears. Without the generosity and support of these men, there would not have been a film on the 65th, at least not by me. And many people might never have even heard about this service. I know that for combat veterans, it takes courage to relive those painful memories, especially with strangers, because when I first met them, I was a stranger. They knew nothing about me. And yet they had the courage to open up and talk to me. So, gracias. Thank you. All right. So we're going to now go into the second half of the program, which is raffle winners. That's because I wanted an opportunity for veterans that I was not going to profile earlier, like the 7 that we profiled, more than 7 that we profiled earlier. And I wanted to give other people an opportunity on a random basis. And the first one that we're going to begin with is Colonel John Palese, who was a doctor. He served as the battalion surgeon with the 65th when it arrived in Korea in 1950. And I believe that the story of the Borinqueneers should be shared and passed down to future generations. And with that spirit in mind, our next guest today from Illinois is also our youngest. All right, I'm looking for him. Okay, so it's 2 guests actually. So it's Colonel Palese's great-grandson, 11-year-old Charlie, and his brother, 9-year-old Willie, who has some words he wants to share with us. Hi, Charlie and Willie. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
What do you want to say?
Well, as you mentioned our names, my name is Charlie, and I'm 11. And I'm Willie, and I'm 9.
Hi.
We'd like to introduce you to our great-grandfather, retired Colonel Dr. John Anthony Palese, MD. John was born in Chicago on January 3rd, 1923, and grew up with his family on Taylor Street in the Italian neighborhood. His parents owned and operated the Palese Barbershop. During World War II, he attended medical school through the Army Specialized Training Program at the University of Wisconsin. After graduating, he served in the Army Medical Corps in the Panama Canal Zone. Later, he was deployed to Korea as the battalion surgeon with the 65th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, the Borinqueneers. He treated and evacuated the wounded to MASH units. After the Chosin Reservoir battle, John refused to leave the beach until every man under his care was evacuated. He was the last to leave and received the Bronze Star. Back in the United States, he pursued a medical career for 66 years, including roles at Liberty Mutual Insurance, St. Luke's Medical Center, DePaul Rehabilitation Hospital, and the Aurora Hospital System in Milwaukee. He worked until age of 92. John also served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard and retired as a colonel. He participated in the Stars and Stripes honor flight and attended the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony for the Borinqueneers in Washington, D.C. John raised 5 children on his own after his wife, Dolores, passed away in 1973. He loved baseball and attended the very first Milwaukee Brewers fantasy camp and went almost every year until 2008. Above all, he loved his family. John passed away on November 7th, 2016 at the age of 93.
Yes, and I forgot to share a photograph that I was supposed to show while you were speaking. And here is the photograph of the colonel with his 2 sons, Luke and John, at the 2016 Congressional Gold Medal ceremony. And that's when I first met them, although I had been in correspondence with him for many years, but we had never met until that day. A proud moment for the whole family. Thank you. Did you show us some photographs? Didn't you have some photographs last time?
Yeah, we did. My brother is gonna show us, you guys, some photos. This one is of John and his son. Also, John, our grandpa. He served in the Air Force and retired as a lieutenant colonel. He was in the Gulf War. And then this one is, I think, this is of the our great grandfather.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
In front of a helicopter. And yeah, that's it.
So you were going to tell me one thing you said that I wanted you to share is that Willie may not remember because he's too young, but you were young too, but you have some memories of your great grandpa, right?
Yeah. I remember a little bit about like going to his house and swimming in his pool he had in his backyard. We'd swim pretty much all afternoon and have a good time and eat his best homemade spaghetti I've ever tasted. So,
well, Spaghetti is an Italian name, isn't it?
Yep.
Italiano. Thank you, gentlemen. You look both very handsome, and I want to thank you. And I hope. Oh, let me see that photograph. Very nice. And I want to thank you, and I hope that you never forget him, and that you continue to tell people about the Borinqueneers. And if you ever have children, that you also teach them about the history, okay?
I will.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my God, that was so adorable. But we're going to move on with our next Borinqueneer that we're going to profile, and that is Manuel Mercado of Yauco, who passed away in 1978. And here with us is his grandson, Jorge Mercado, who is the historical research leader for the Borinqueneers Congressional Gold Medal Ceremony National Committee. And for the past 5 years, he's been volunteering and advancing and preserving the legacy of the Borinqueneers on the social media platform. His dedication to the 65th has been able to assist him in coping with PTSD related to his service as a former 9/11 first responder. Welcome, Jorge.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for this invite. Thank you for everything you've done and for this event. Also, I want to thank all of our veterans for their service. So here we go. And I'm just going to make this quick. I met my grandfather for 1 week in 1978 when I was 8 years old. And unfortunately, a week later, he passed away from brain cancer that was service related. Let's fast forward to 2016 is when I met Noemi via telephone, and I discovered before that he was a Borinqueneer, and Noemi was so kind enough to vet him for me and actually provide me his Congressional Gold Medal. And I like to just state that, this very medal that we always see here, that we all hold near and dear to our hearts, actually inspired me to venture deeper into the journey of this story. And my grandfather was one of the actually just got a little caught up. Well, after I found out he was a Borinqueneer, I got all his military records and his medical records, and just to better understand the essence of his humanity and the PTSD that was very well known among the family. Now, really quick, right before the 65th headed out to Korea, um, the 65th had two battalions. They needed to muster up a third battalion. So Colonel Harris went and sought assistance from Puerto Rican newspapers and radio stations, seeking for the purpose of seeking men with prior service to volunteer for the war. And actually, my grandfather was one of these men who answered the call to duty. For he was a World War II combat veteran that fought in the Pacific against the Japanese. Uh, he served in 8 Korean War campaigns in combat from 1950 to 53 with the 65th, the 7th, and the famous 27 Wolfhounds. I am proud to share that he is not only a recipient of the Borinqueneers Congressional Gold Medal, but to the right, he's also a recipient of the Filipino Veterans of World War II Congressional Gold Medal that was also awarded to U.S. veterans that fought in the Philippines. And so, on a personal note, and reason behind my craft and what I do in honoring these men is I really never knew my grandfather. What I knew was through family. However, I have to say that the inspiration of this unit, aspiring for glory on the battlefield, and all that they went through, has given me a renewed sense of pride and love that we all hold in our hearts when it comes to these men. And pretty much this has allowed me to grow to loving men I never knew. And this love has carried over to loving his brothers on equal measures. So they are all my grandfathers. It is something that we all have in common when we talk about these men, how it moves our hearts. Their service and sacrifices embodies the fundamental ideals of service to God, family, and country. And with that, I would like to tell everyone on the panel, for we all family, that may the Northern Star of honor and fidelity safely navigate your daily travels. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. That was beautiful. All right, so let's take a quick break and read some comments before we go on. I like this one. This tribute to the 65th, not the 66th, it's just something that we have all waited for years. Who heard our dad's stories have waited for them to be honored. Thank you for doing this and for all the families sharing. Que vivan los Borinqueneers. Es un honor escuchar estas historias de cada uno de ustedes y de las familias. Me llena de orgullo. And I agree. Great job, Charlie and Willie. They did a fantastic job. Yes, here's another one. Charlie and Willie were the hits tonight. Charlie and Willie did it great. Great grandpa and grandpa would definitely be proud. We're going to go on now to our next Borinqueneer, and that is Guillermo Frau Ruyan of Company G. And Guillermo was part of the group that I organized to return to South Korea in 2017. And along with his daughter, Cookie, who is here with us tonight from Illinois. Cookie is a retired high school English teacher. And we had a great time, didn't we, Cookie?
Yeah, we did. We had a wonderful time.
Wow, I know. So, did you want me to share the video first, or do you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, thanks again, 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒. Like, I know we're all so grateful for this opportunity to honor not just the Borinqueneers we know, but all these great stories of all these terrific men that just make us all like so proud. And I, of course, am super proud of my dad. Like you said, he passed away in 2020, at 95 years old. He loved the work he did with you, with the Borinqueneer. So one of the, I thought, oh my God, how do I honor him? Really, what I thought is I can't capture a life in 2 minutes, but I could share some artifacts that I think will maybe explain a little bit about him. So one of them, he had been, when we went to go get the congressional medal, he was one of the Borinqueneers that got to go to DC, and I was with them because, they all had to have a companion. And he was interviewed by Telemundo, and they did such a nice interview. So we've taken part of it and kind of edited it because it's a little bit longer, but there's a couple of things I want you to kind of just notice. So one is, the way he talks about what he did there in Korea, but also really the way he talks about the men that he served with. Says a lot about him. Then there's also a part where they show his hands. I think that the reason the photographer showed his hands is his hands were very expressive and very much like him. And I find them so beautiful. And then finally, the last part is kind of a wrap up where I'm in the video. And really, I just want you to see, like, if you listen, you'll hear him laugh. And he had the best little laugh. And he was such an adorable man. And I hope that kind of comes across. So yeah, if you want to share, I have the video here, but I think, 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒, I think you have to.
La guerra de Corea, Guillermo era un maestro de escuela primaria en Puerto Rico. Antes de la guerra de Corea, Guillermo era un maestro de escuela primaria en Puerto Rico.
Y también yo creo que esa guerra, yo era joven entonces, era idealista, que creo que era una guerra justificada. De las pocas guerras que son justificadas, que ninguna guerra es buena.
Sin embargo, sus recuerdos están hoy en aquellos amigos que perdió durante el conflicto.
Todos esos amigos míos que murieron, muchos murieron, y pienso siempre en ellos. Y creo que un reconocimiento grandísimo que nos hemos hecho.
Ayer lloré muchas veces porque se me entraban las lágrimas de ver el apoyo de la gente. Y a mi papito aquí, que lo quiero tanto y tengo tanto orgullo de él que no tengo ni palabras.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so I still feel like that about him. I still am so charmed by him. I'm so proud of him. But I wanted to I know I could go on and on forever about him, but I thought I would just share a couple of artifacts. So one is, this is just kind of like a picture of the gold medal, or I guess.
Yes.
And this medal meant so much to him and to all of us in our family, because we grew up, like many of you have heard, their dads did not talk about this. And really, it wasn't until 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒's work came to our forefront and his forefront that he really delved in there, and we could find his pride in it, but also to see kind of the great work that he did, the stories that he had about what he did there, how he treated other people, how he saw the Koreans. So I will always be so grateful for this. I also have this picture, which on the back of this picture. So this is something that was taken right before he went. So it says here, antes de ir a la guerra, from in Jayuya, Puerto Rico, which is where he's from. And what I find so fascinating about this, aside from that he looks like Clark Gable or something, is his family was poor. And yet they got the money, man, to make this picture. Like, it meant something to them. And maybe they thought it was the last picture they would have of him, going to war. So I thought that was interesting. And then the last two bits, because I know 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒, she and her clock. I got my timer going. Go ahead.
Yes, good.
A couple of things. So my dad, he was always a big thinker, big writer, reader. And this is really an artistic reproduction of him, kind of a painting where he's sitting here, he's either reading or writing. And if you know my father, this looks exactly like him. I'm just telling you, this captures him so well. Up here, this is a huge poster he has of Muñoz Marín as somebody who he admired and read all his stuff. And I thought this picture just really captures that kind of contemplative, thoughtful piece. And then finally, I have another last piece of art. So my father was one of fortunately, we moved to Chicago in his, I don't know what, 30s. always wanted to return to the island. Always said that we grew up with this idea of Puerto Rico, having never seen it or lived there. And he was able to return to Puerto Rico and have a little finca. And this is him going, well, wherever it is, here it is, going into like the finca behind his house. And I love this because it's going towards dark, which I know sounds like depressing, but you know, he passed away in his bed, in his house, looking at his mountains in Puerto Rico with the triolos playing on repeat. And I think that this is what I think that would have sounded like to them. So I think I appreciate, you know, Noemi and giving us this opportunity to share all this stuff about years. My dad was a great guy. I still miss him every single day. But I also don't have sadness. You know, I feel joy when I think about him and when I see like that video that I've just found so adorable. So thanks again, Noemi, and thanks everybody for being
sharing it with us.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So our next Borinqueneer is Martín Lavoy Santiago, a handsome devil, and his son, Denicio Santiago, Lavoy, Denicio Lavoy, joins us from Maryland. He is a former police officer and retired Department of Homeland Security anti-terrorist senior special agent. Hello, Denicio. How are you?
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm inspired by all the great stories that we're sharing here. This is a picture of my dad. Before being drafted to the U.S. Army, my father worked as a cow milker. He served in the U.S. Army from 1949 until 1957, where he was honorably discharged. And from 1951 to 1953, he was in the Korean War. This is a painting of my father and his brothers. They were all Borinqueneers. My father was beyond proud of this, as it served proof of our family's deep-rooted commitment to the country and nation. I could only imagine the impact it had on my grandparents to have 3 of their 9 children put their lives on the line to serve a country that at the time did not serve them. Here's a short clip video of my father talking about him in the position of a point man during one of his missions. Naomi?
Vas mirando, si viene el enemigo está al frente, tú coges tu rifle al frente, sea a la izquierda, tú coges el rifle a la izquierda.
So as you can see, as many have shared here, everyone had great stories. They loved what they did. They were very proud. But like my father, you saw here, I wanted to capture the emotion. My father told a lot of glorifying stories, but a lot of times would end with a lot of emotion. And I wondered why. He began to share stories with us, horrific experiences and a treatment that were influenced by racial bias, some of which were also perpetuated by the Brigadier General William Harris, and shown here in this picture. But Brigadier General Harris later wrote a book, and he wrote about his regrets. And he stated, "They were the best, bravest, and most committed group of soldiers I had ever led." My father was never issued many of his service medals. I was fortunate enough to get several of his medals prior to his passing, shown here. His records indicate that he earned 2 Bronze Stars, which I'm still actively working on to acquire in his honor, as well as his Purple Heart. The Congressional Gold Medal of Honor was escorted and presented to my family by Hector Diaz and the Borinqueneers Motorcycle Club, which arrived with a police escort to my home. And we had a small ceremony, and everyone was here, and we loved it. It was very empowering and very touching. My father's impact and legacy of service to this country has continued. My siblings and I continue to serve this country. We all either have served in the military or have become police officers or nurses. And in my case, as stated, I also went on to become a special agent. My brother here, shown here, served in the military and served in in a war. I can't recall at the moment. I know he's online, he's listening, so maybe he'll type it in. But he's also a retired police officer 2 times over. My sister served in the Army, and that's me. My younger brother is a sheriff in Long Island. And my baby sister has dedicated her life to customer service for a lot of premier, companies throughout in the world. So our commitment, and my father's commitment and impact and legacy, we continue to do that by the way we live our lives. So we're very thankful and very excited. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, Naomi. I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet you. I wish my father would have gotten to meet you and continued the work. And I will continue to support you in any way I can. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Denitio. Thank you so much. Beautiful presentation. And the next Borinqueneer now is going to be Staff Sergeant Samuel Pagan. And, for many Borinqueneers, military service became a family tradition. And Sergeant Pagan had two sons who also served in the military, Captain Edgar Pagan and retired Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Pagan, who served for 22 years. And Sam retired from the U.S. Army in 2001 and from the Environmental Protection Agency in 2014. He is joining us from Nevada.
Thank you, Noemi. Hi. Thank you, Noemi. It's an honor to say a few words about my father, Samuel Pagan Soto, del barrio Santa Catalina de 𝑤𝑒'𝑚𝑒, and including my mother, Maria Luisa Torres Rivera de Santa Isabel. It's an honor for me to, again, speak a couple of words and represent my brother Edgar, my sisters Vanessa and Valerie. Dad was very proud to have served in the 65th Infantry Regiment. He served in K Company, and the Korean War tour was his first of 3 different tours he did to the Korean Peninsula. He also finished his career in 1970 with a tour in Vietnam. Anybody that knew Samuel, our dad, will know that he was a veteran because he acted very professional. But more than that, Dad was all about family. And I think that's what I would talk the most about in honoring my father. Every time we visit Puerto Rico and Dad was between tours or once he retired, it was always the visits to Grandma and Grandpa and our uncles and our cousins. But good Lord, let Dad hear about a lost cousin, a third cousin, or a great aunt or a great uncle, and Dad would move heaven and earth to find them and connect with them. Never showing up with empty hands, always showing up with pastries from the local bakery, pan de agua, café, something, or sometimes, if they were lucky, his famous pineapple upside down cake.
Oh my God.
Mom and Dad were great cooks, and their love language was definitely through food. You couldn't go home without leaving, without eating. Anything simple, like guanimes, to my father's famous empanadas de yuca al carbón. Talk to anybody about Samuel Pagan, and I'm sure food will come up. It was definitely their love language. The best way to honor these great men and their families is to tell their stories. It warmed my heart to see Charlie and Willie telling the story. But we've got to repeat these stories to our grandchildren, to our children, so they can repeat them and they never be forgotten. How they live, what they accomplished, the food they liked. I'm the family historian, and I'm putting a book together, not to make it a bestseller, but something solid to hand down through the generations of what those before us did. It's so important to keep those traditions, and it's the best way to honor these people so that they can live in our hearts and in our minds for many future generations of Boricuas. Thank you, Noemi.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you and your whole family for your military service.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. We have next Borinqueneer, Sergeant First Class Celio Freites Menendez. And this is another example of family service because this Celio served with the 65th in both World War II and Korea. And I want you to welcome retired Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Freites, who is a former commander in the Special Forces, former military science professor, and very active in a number of veterans organizations and veterans issues in the state of Florida. Hola, Dennis, how are you?
Hola, Noemi. Very quickly, I know that time is going by quickly.
That's okay. You have your 2 minutes at least. Go ahead. Don't worry. Everybody went over. You noticed everybody went over.
Well, my father, Borinqueneer Sergio Freites Menendez, U.S. Army retired, was an honorable jíbaro, or mountain man from Montebello, Manatí, Puerto Rico, whose father, Osvaldo, died when he was 10 years old. As Celio had to pull himself up by the bootstrap, went to serve and defend our USA and humanity in our noble U.S. Army. When he was about 17 years old, fought valiantly in World War II. He went to Africa, Italy, and Germany. In Korea, received various medals to include the Bronze Star with Valor device and Combat Infantryman's Badge with Star. That means he served in 2 wars. Also, he was the security NCOIC of the regimental headquarters. He pulled security for the commander, who at that time was Colonel Harris, and he spoke very highly of Colonel Harris. Celio on this earth was a hard worker who pulled himself up by his bootstrap, a great husband married to Gloria E. Gonzalez Marrero, a teacher and social worker from Ciales, Jayuya. Behind any good soldier, there's a good family. And he was good to my sister Celeste and me. My father, Celio, was a special person. He was loved by all. He excelled as a family handyman. He would fix everything. A domestic engineer, as we called him. A humanitarian who had many friends and always helped and loved those around him. As he captivated everyone with his stories, he was a good storyteller. Celio would say, hacer bien y no mires a quién. Do good and don't look at whom. He would give you the shirt off his back. Was beloved by all who knew him. Celio had a very good sense of humor and a nice, warm smile. Also, Celio liked Puerto Rico jíbaro music, the Puerto Rico cuatro guitar, which he played. He also played the güiro, and he also played the tres. That's another Puerto Rican instrument.
Very talented.
As my father told me, he wished he could vote for U.S. president. And we should never forget the brave Borinqueneers that face racism and federal discrimination, as today's brave American veterans in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico still don't have civil rights, and I'm fighting for equality for them. Celio is an exceptional good soul, which truly exemplifies sacrifice for the good of others. Had hard work, courage, and compassion. As he has been reborn to eternal life, reported to serve in God's guardian angel 65th Legion. God bless the 65th Infantry, and like they say in the U.S. Army, hooah!
Hooah! Thank you, Dennis. Awesome. That's a beautiful. He was such a handsome man. Runs in the family, right?
I hope I caught some of that.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Noemi, for all you do.
Good night. And last but not least, I'm very patiently waiting. I want to mention that Borinqueneer veterans did not only impact and inspire family members, they touched many lives. And here to speak about that is our last guest. It's Jaime Fret, a veteran and a pastor from Florida, and he will talk to us about the Borinqueneers in his life. Hola, Jaime.
Hola, Noemi. First of all, I want to give you props. I saw Jorge Mercado there. I saw that Rose text you from, the daughter of Florencio Edward Eddie Lorenzo. So I'm going to start from Germán. My Borinqueneer starts with Don Germán.
Hold on. So, here we go.
So Germán Bravo, when I got out of the military, he was the one that basically, with my injuries, he walked me through with the DAV, and basically that was my first contact with the Borinqueneers. But didn't really give it much, importance at that time. Just that, okay, he served, I served, many served, and life moves on. But I got the flavor of the Borinqueneers through him. As time went on, then after 2007, well, this is where I kind of learned really a lot more. Even though
that's my DVD.
That's right, the DVD. And that basically, because I knew a lot of co-workers, because I worked for the post office, a lot of veterans that were from the 65th, so I got to know a little bit more about it. But it wasn't until I actually saw the video that I actually said, wow, they went through a lot. So I moved to Florida, and I'm preaching on a service, and it happens to be Memorial. And Memorial, Memorial Day. So I'm saying, we're going to pray for this nation, for all those who served. And if there's any veterans amongst us, let's stand up, in honor for those that are not here. So Don Miguel Martí Lopez stands up, and myself as a Vietnam era veteran. So after the service is over, I walk over to him and I said, Don Miguel, I didn't know you were a veteran. And then he told me his story. And I says, do you know there's a Congressional Gold Medal for the Borinqueneers? And he says, no. Says, oh, you don't? Okay, well, started things rolling. And once it starts rolling, I start making my phone calls, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to honor Don Miguel. And as I'm getting all of this, I get hold of Frank Medina, who was dealing with the Borinqueneers with the Alliance of the Congressional Gold Medal. And so I get in contact with him to get the medal. And as I'm doing that, then all of a sudden I get a phone call from Eddie, from Florencio, Eddie Lorenzo. And that's how I meet Eddie. And so we get in contact, and here it is. I think it's about, I'm going to say about a week or 2 weeks before the service, I get the phone call of the last Borinqueneer, which is Raymond Herbert Medina. He's still alive. His birthday was October 31st. I was there with him. I wish him a happy birthday. And like I said, he calls and asks if he can be included. And I'm saying, oh, I had the programs made, I had the medals ordered, and I didn't know if I could get him on time. But then when I heard his voices, well, if you can, I understand. I mean, that broke my heart. So once I said, hey, we're going to make it happen. You're in. Don't worry. Somehow, some way, we're going to get the medal. And believe it or not, the medal arrived the day before the ceremony. So wow. I was saying, oh, Lord, oh, Lord, oh, Lord. But anyway, God is gracious, and he gave us the time. So we were able to honor 3 living Borinqueneers in Florida. It was an honor. And like I said, thank you, Noemi, for the work that you've done. I thank, like I said before, that Jorge with the HRT, with the work that he does. I mean, always putting all that information out there. And we have to understand this generation, if we're saying there's 1,000 left, I don't think we've got that much right now that are still alive. Raymond just...
I don't know where that figure came from. That's not provable. We don't
know.
Like
I'm saying, I know it's dwindling the numbers, but right now, Raymond is...
Thank God they're in their late 90s. They're 100.
Right. Well, he's 98.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I had the opportunity to meet Eddie, his daughter Rose. That, like I said, she chimed in. Miguel's family, and then again.
Well, I thank you for everything that you did for these veterans and for getting them the Congressional Gold Medal, because there are still a few that have not gotten it, and we get requests, and we try to honor that. I want to share a photograph that I took with Raymond, who is the only veteran that we are honoring today who is still living. And he was a prisoner of war, which I don't think you mentioned.
No,
so I interviewed him in his home, and he, shared his experience with me as a prisoner of war. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jaime, and God bless you for the work.
God bless you, and thank you for everything you've done, and everybody else that spoke, on this chat, that we're honoring all these veterans. Yes, he's still alive, but like everything else, we want to honor those that did something for our nation and for La Isla de Puerto Rico, La Isla del Encanto.
Thank you. Good evening. You're the last one.
Oh, God bless. Have a good evening.
For the last. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, in conclusion, oh my God, this has been a longer evening than we thought it would be. And we timed this, but everybody went a little over. We had some mishaps. It's understandable. I just hope that you have all been inspired tonight, learning a little bit about these brave men who remain our heroes even today, though many are gone. I wanted to do this event because I believe that, quote, we remember, love, and honor those we've lost by speaking their name and telling their stories, unquote. Tonight, we have spoken the names of 25 veterans who served in the 65th. It was my honor to have met many of them and gotten to know them a little bit. Others I never met because they passed away before their families registered them in my database, but those families shared many of the veteran stories with me. And the message I took away, as I said earlier, was the pride they all felt to have served in the 65th Infantry Regiment. I will forever be indebted to them, and we in turn, we must honor them by remembering them and their stories and saying their names. I want to thank all my guests for sharing their memories with us and all the viewers for participating in this special event tonight. If I can figure it out, I think this live event is being recorded and will be available for viewing after today on Facebook, and in our YouTube channel is going to be there as well, in case you want to share it with someone who missed it. I welcome your feedback. If you think we should do another Honoring Your Borinqueneer event next year for Veterans Day, and I would consider it, and I would select a new batch of Borinqueneers, but maybe not 25, because then it won't become a 2-hour event. Let me see if there's any quick emails that I want to read. I want to just share this one, which says, I don't know who it's from. Dear Borinqueneers and families, with heartfelt gratitude, I extend my deepest thanks to each of you for your service, courage, and the enduring sacrifices you've made. The legacy of the Borinqueneers stands as a beacon of bravery, resilience, and dedication. It is a profound honor to recognize the service and valor that defines this esteemed group. To your families who have shared in the sacrifices and offered steadfast support, many blessings to you. May each day bring peace, joy, and I think you were cut off, but we got the message. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful message. Now, happy Veterans Day, and may all of our veterans in harm's way remain safe. To learn more about the Borinqueneers, feel free to visit our website at borinqueneers.com, where you will find articles, a photo gallery containing audio and film, video clips, and interviews, as well as merchandise you can purchase. Good night, everybody. Buenas noches. Y que vivan los Borinqueneers. Gracias.